Welcome and thank you for joining us. It's Monday, July 8th. You're watching News 2 on VIA Channel 4 and 504. I'm Leslie Camisiang. Topping our stories tonight, executives from Vitol, propane supplier to the Water and Power Authority, are under investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Brazilian prosecutors have also implicated two of the executives in one of the biggest international corruption cases. Recently, $22 million was paid to WAPA, and WAPA's management team is informed that Vitol had threatened to stop distribution to the territory if they were not paid. Here's more on the story.
In 2013, in an attempt to lower the 150,000 barrels of crude oil consumed daily in the territory, Vitol won a 5-year contract with the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority that would lower fuel costs by 30%. But instead, the cost of electricity in the Virgin Islands has gone up.
For the benefit of the people of the Virgin Islands, who is Vitol and what services do they provide to the authority and to the people of the Virgin Islands?
Vitol is a private oil trading company, and they built the propane facilities we have here in the territory. They operate them, and they supply propane to the authority.
According to information from Reuters, an international news organization, Miguel Mike Loya, a U.S. head of Vitol, and Antonio Morero, the company's head for Latin American and Caribbean operation, are under investigation. Trafigura and Vitol, leading commodity trading Goliaths, have found themselves embroiled in Brazil's car wash scandal, one of the biggest corruption cases of all time.
The scandal has compounded the worst recession on record to make life very hard for many in Brazil. 13.5 million people are unemployed. Brazilian prosecutors say that Loya and Morero knowingly participated in the corruption schemes by allegedly paying bribes. The vast scale of the scandal soon unfolded. Today, more than 80 sitting Brazilian politicians are now under investigation, and the scandal has spread to 16 countries across 4 continents, implicating other leaders and politicians.
Can they provide this body with the contract and between WAPA, the people of the Virgin Islands, and Vitol, and all the key persons who participated in this contract?
The Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority received $22.9 million from Bill 330101.
So what was the original cost of constructing the, I believe is the propane facility?
The original estimate was $87 million.
87
million.
And what are we paying now?
The final contractual amount was $160 million.
TV2 reached out to the Public Service Commission and the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority for comments on the Brazilian car wash scandal as it relates to the Virgin Islands and Vitol. And both public relation officers stated that they could not make comments right now on the matter. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
WAPA officials also informed that they were defrauded out of $2 million from a payment that went out to what they thought was a legitimate vendor. The FBI is currently investigating that matter. Also recently, the control board that oversees Puerto Rico finances has filed a lawsuit just last week against Vitol, alleging that the fuel supply to PREPA, the Puerto Rican utility that provides energy to the island of Puerto Rico, they defrauded their ratepayers by not providing fuel of a certain quality. We'll be following up with that story later on in the week. At the Senate on Monday, members of the Senate Committee on Health and Hospitals called the Virgin Islands Health Department for an update on the state of the territory's healthcare system. Among the subjects that senators were concerned about was the continuing problem with homelessness and mental illness, and they're not happy with how the health department is dealing with the issue, especially if lawmakers are the ones that are getting the blame. Here's more on that story.
The senators are stealing. The senators and their big salaries And we are working our tail off day and night. We're in meetings all night. And we have called you guys in on meetings after hours at night, trying to figure this thing out and making sure we're sending the money in the right places. So why we're getting down right now, it's because it's hard hearing that you're appropriating the money, you're making the funds available, and it's always a plan after a plan, and we're not seeing things happen. Every time someone passes the Wendy's area and you see that lady laying down, it's a reminder to the constituents that the senators aren't doing anything, when we have in fact put the money out there where it needs to be. We need to do better, and I am pleading with you as someone who has lost a nephew to mental illness, as someone with 4 children who needs the healthcare system, as someone whose mom died last year unexpectedly and I couldn't even be there because our hospital was not up to par. Please do your job.
I'm always talking about continuity of government. So we don't have to see the same faces to continue a program. But what's disheartening and disappointing is when we see the same faces and then we still hear a bunch of excuses. There's a number of areas that needs to be addressed, and we're talking about behavioral health, we're talking about vital statistics, we're talking about EMS and everything else down the line. I'm begging and pleading with this Department of Health team. I'd like to give everyone a chance to come together and move as one unit.
On St. Croix, the Anguilla land fire just can't seem to be contained as another large blaze broke out over the weekend. This time it was due to waste oil, according to the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority. The Waste Management Authority announced that a waste oil fire ignited around 5 p.m. Saturday at the Anguilla landfill, generating large plumes of black smoke. The Virgin Islands Fire Services, waste management contractors, Vitima, and other local government personnel were on the scene. Last week, when the fire also reignited after being put out, the Virgin Islands Health Department stated in a joint press conference that there was no immediate health risk to the public. This time, Government House is recommending that residents with respiratory ailments or other existing conditions that may have been triggered as a result of inhaling the smoke shelter in place to minimize exposure or to relocate if necessary. According to Government House, Wang Lui Hospital and the Health Department's emergency medical services are prepared to respond and provide services to St. Croix residents that may be impacted. We'll keep you updated. Turning our attention to the crime report, Horace McGrath, who was wanted for assault charges, has been arrested. According to police on June 29th around 7:40 p.m., a woman reported that she was involved in a physical altercation with McGrath, and when another woman intervened and tried to separate them, McGrath also assaulted that woman. She also told police that McGrath began to kick her and the other woman. On July 5th, McGrath turned himself into police, where he was placed under arrest and charged with simple assault and battery domestic violence. McGrath denied assaulting the two women. His bail was set at $1,000, which he was able to post. Meanwhile, another man on St. Thomas was arrested on domestic assault charges. On Wednesday, July 3rd, the domestic violence unit was dispatched to the Chicken and Bowling restaurant in Havenside, where a woman reported that she was assaulted by Reuben George. On Friday, July 5th, around 6:30 p.m., George was seen in the area of Havenside Mall and was detained by officers on patrol. The Criminal Investigations Bureau then placed 33-year-old Reuben George under arrest for assault in the third-degree domestic violence. George was unable to post the $25,000 bail, so he was remanded to the Bureau of Corrections pending his advice of rights hearing. Finance Commissioner Kirk Callwood is currently at the helm of the territory as both Governor Albert Bryan and Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roche are out of the territory. Governor Albert Bryan left the territory on Sunday, July 7th to meet with officials of the Margaritaville Enterprises in Orlando. Lieutenant Governor Roche, meanwhile, left the territory on July 5th on a personal matter. He will return to the territory today, and both Bryan and Roche are scheduled to return to office on Tuesday, July 9th. During Roche's absence, Senate President Novelle E. Francis will assume the duties of the Lieutenant Governor. Stick around, highlights from last week, Reggae Cultural Fest on St. Croix, plus more on hurricane preparedness from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We will be right back. Welcome back. When it comes to strong hurricanes, the territory usually gets storms with the most impact beginning the month of September. But the Federal Emergency Management Agency urges preparedness before then and even before hurricane season starts. FEMA's External Affairs Specialist Eric Adams stopped by the studio to stress the steps that Virgin Islanders have to take to be prepared the right way, to build a kit and secure your pets and other animals. Here's more.
Do not wait for a hurricane watch or warning to prepare your families or communities for an incoming hurricane. Now is time to start planning for disasters. Make plans to build emergency supply kits. Store documents such as deeds, birth certificates, home and auto insurance documents, and medical insurance papers in waterproof containers or backup electronic files. Do not forget your pets or large animals such as goats, pigs, cattle, and horses when it comes to preparing for disasters. Take photos of your pets or animals for identification purposes. Have plans for carriers and trailers and sheltering for pets and livestock. Do not keep animals chained or penned indoors during emergencies.
Last week, Crucians marked Emancipation Week with the annual Fort to Fort Walk and an Emancipation Day tramp. But there was also a free concert and culture fest on the green at Fort Christian on July 3rd. The event began at 1 p.m. Sponsored by WSTX radio station, the celebration featured an all-female musical lineup, a drum circle, mokojumbis, quadrille dancing, and more. Here's more from a 13-year-old artist at that event.
When summer come round, when mindset shell down. So when we touch down, guess what? We on this party, reach press come last. We having a blast, no need to run out. Everybody stand back. We on this party, Randy, me and crew. He's concerned for true. To me, you, to you. We on your party, no need to get back. Time for stress. Do what? Everybody put your hand up. We gonna take away. Hey. So now we turn it up. Hey. Time to mash it up. Boy. So now we let it up. Read him up. Lamala. Put your hand in the air right now. Put your hand in the air right now. Put your hand. Boy.
Looks like a fun event with positive energy. Turning our attention to our Caribbean neighbors, experts have cited island nations like those in the Caribbean chain at the forefront of the effects of climate change, including rising sea levels. In Antigua and Barbuda, officials are sounding the alarm on how the drastic change in global climate can place Caribbean nations in danger. Here's more.
Ambassador Diane Black-Lane says the intensity of climate events affecting this region are 13 years ahead of when they were predicted to happen.
What happened in 2017, according to our report, is supposed to happen in 2030.
2030.
We're not supposed to be having superstorms right now.
Ambassador Black Lane notes that in order to mitigate this situation, the governments of this region need to unite and take a firm stance against larger countries on climate issues. However, she holds out little hope of concrete action emerging from the ongoing CARICOM heads meeting in St. Lucia.
If I'm candid, I have to tell you that I don't think, based on our discussions and what we've been hearing, that they're ready. CARICOM is ready to be bold and to step forward. I don't think they're going to get an agreement to be able to be bold.
She says previous attempts by CARICOM to provide guidance throughout the region have been marred by politics and policies which are inconsistent with science.
Meanwhile, Ambassador Black Lane also commented on making infrastructure more resilient to the effects of climate change. One area where she says this is evident is the rehabilitation of the Friars Hill Road.
The Friars Hill Road will take a long time because we don't have a choice. It has to be built for a Category 5 hurricane and a 1 in 50-year storm. That is going to hit that road. 1 in a 50-year storm is going to hit Friars Hill Road and all of our roads every 5 years. Urban Development Bank's internal rate of review assessment of adding those extra features to the road said that it will not be financially viable. So the government had to take a very difficult decision and get lashed every day on social media for it, and to spend our own money to compensate for that. Do you hear them getting any congratulations? Do you hear Antiguan saying, oh, that's a great thing? We don't understand it.
Stick around, your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.
Well, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Paul Williams taking a look at our current satellite. We are seeing some leftover remnants of frontal boundary that's making its presence felt throughout portions of the Bahamas. We're starting to see more of a surge as a result of what's going on with the trade winds beginning to move its way a little bit, becoming a little more active coming out of the east. But in general, we are seeing more in the way of convoluted sky cover and with a chance of scattered showers throughout this part of the area. Now, as far as going a little bit further north, the northern portions of the Windward Islands, we see this cluster that's going to continue to lift towards the north. But it's really what's happening to the south that I'm more curious and concerned with because of that disturbance. It's going to begin to push its way through pretty steadily. It's going to enhance the cloud cover and the chances of scattered showers. Now, it begins to break off and not become so cohesive as you kind of bridge out a little bit further, and then as you travel across the water, it begins to lose a lot of its cohesion as far as that system is concerned, forming in the area. Now, as far as tonight is concerned, we will have partly cloudy skies. There will be a chance of a passing shower and 81 degrees. For tomorrow in St. John's, partly sunny, muggy conditions. We will warm to about 90 for the high in St. John's. And then for St. Thomas, we'll get up to about 90 degrees with partly sunny skies. Looking for an afternoon heating shower to pop up for us very rapidly. And then in St. Croix, look for partial sunshine, scattered showers right around the lunchtime, 91 degrees for the daytime high. Taking a look at the marine forecast. On the Atlantic side, waves between 1 to 3 feet. Winds will push out of the east at about 10 to 15 knots. And then on the Caribbean side, the seas are going to be between 2 to 4 feet. Winds continue to push out of the east there as well at about 10 to 15 knots, actually. And as you take a look at the Saharan Desert, we're looking at that dust becoming a little more pronounced for us as it begins to push by Wednesday morning across portions of the Windward Islands. And then as we progress through the timeline and the forecast model a little bit further, we start seeing that dust beginning to dissipate just a little bit more. Here's a look at the extended forecast. Temperature staying near 90 for the highs.
Coming up next, Alex Randall's news and comments when we return.
You're watching News 2. This is Alex Randall with News and Comment. U.S. Department of Transportation says the Turpentine Run project that we all call the Bridge to Nowhere will be finished September 30th, 4 months behind schedule. 4 months? Who are they fooling? That project is 22 years behind schedule and cost $28 million for 3/4 of a mile of roadway. The real irony is that the old bridge is still in place. Getting rid of the old bridge was the reason for the new bridge. In heavy rain, debris and water back up behind the old bridge and flood nada. All the new bridge is for nothing if the old one is still there. Okay, so we know the emergency medical service is going to merge with the fire service. That is a good idea. They're all first responders. But does the fire service really need $7 million more? That is a 400% increase. Shouldn't the funding for emergency medical service people just be transferred out of the Department of Health? There's no new service. We're just moving a budget item. Why does it cost 400% more? So we have a shortage of teachers, particularly vocational teachers. The Department of Education has a problem. Well, not one problem, they have lots of problems. The problem with vocational teachers is that we require that they have bachelor's degrees. Now, that's crazy. If a man is a master plumber or a master mechanic or a master carpenter, then have him teach that. What difference does it make whether he took courses in Spanish or philosophy in college? Teach carpentry. If you're a master, teach your mastery. And while you're at it, pay them. Pay them what they're worth. We lose teachers in all areas because our pay scales are too low. Oh, and vocational education still has a problem with their textbooks. Some of them are 25 years old. We are spending millions of dollars every year to have a third party manage our money. The federal government doesn't trust the way our Department of Education handles money, so we have to pay outsiders to do it. Wouldn't it be really smart to spend $7.8 million here on accountants rather than sending it stateside to some accounting firm? With our hotels mostly out of business, there's a lot of hot activity with small apartments and cottages utilizing the service of Airbnb. Airbnb is a state-of-the-art home sharing platform, lets you rent your spare room. This last week, they held a disaster preparedness meeting for some 200 people who are making their homes or spare rooms available. And it shows their engagement in our community to recognize that storm preparation is important for anybody who's trying to make accommodations available. We salute Airbnb for being a good community citizen. St. John Festival's over. 35th one in a row. Lots of color, diversity, vibrancy, music, dancing in the streets. We are really wizards at this. Street festivals, we're the best. Some places in the world have one festival a year. In the Virgin Islands, we've got dozens. And while St. John was celebrating Independence Day, on St. Croix, Emancipation Day involved, of course, the Fort to Fort walk to commemorate General Butto and the Liberationists. There was a Frederickstead tramp, and this year something very special and different. A march to assert access to private property. You see, Mr. Cuffey has been trying to get to his property in Claremont on St. Croix. Mr. Cuffey claims a right-of-way. The neighbor says it crosses their private property. Superior Court Judge Jojo Meade issued a landmark decision regarding disputes of property and rights of way. The judge says Mr. Cuffey has a right to get to his property. And the Department of Planning and Natural Resources agrees. And so do the surveyors. Mr. Cuffey has a right. But that doesn't mean the neighbors are making it easy. They put boulders in the road. So in honor of Emancipation Day, marchers went up to Seneca Drive to Claremont and cleared the boulders out of the roadway. Once the marchers got to Mr. Cuffey's home, he spoke about the importance of land and the right of access. And he said he thought he was alone, but now he knows the whole community is behind him. That's Emancipation Day on St. Croix. Thanks for watching. This is Alex Randall with News and Comment. Now back to Leslie.
Thank you for that, Alex. And that's it for our show tonight. We're live on Facebook and YouTube and on VIA Channel 4 and 504 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Follow us on social media, tag us on any stories you want to see on the news, or send us a message on Messenger. You can also email us at newsdirector@tv2.vi. On a personal note, happy 100th birthday to my Aunt Doris Kamisiang. Hope you enjoy your day. Thanks again for joining us on News 2. I'm Leslie Kamisiang. We'll see you next time.